The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hi, it's Christine Joanna Hart, and it's Valkyries at Revolution Radio. Welcome this evening to the show, broadcast live from London, out across America. How are you doing over there? Hope you're doing well. Right, we've got an amazing guest tonight, and I hope he's with me. Glenn, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Chris.
Oh, excellent, excellent. You can come back on screen if you like, or if you don't like. I don't mind. I just saw your picture come up there, so.
Okay. Okay, you got the video camera.
Yeah, the video camera. Yeah.
Okay, let's do that.
Oh,
I've been
excellent.
on the beach all day, so I'm a bit looking at that picture. I'm a bit sunned out. I've overdone it a bit.
No, you look great. You look great.
Tough day.
Oh, just for my listeners, as I posted today, the show is for insomniacs everywhere. My guest today is Glenn Harrold. That's with 2 N's and 2 R's. And I found Glenn when I was having one of my insomniac episodes, and has been far too frequent lately. And I wasn't able to sleep. So I was literally on my iPhone thumbing through sleep apps looking for sounds and thunder and lightning and all that kind of stuff. And I came across your app, Glenn, and it was the first time I've deliberately not researched you so I could just introduce you to my listeners at the same time as I found out about you. So what I did, I played your app and I thought, oh, this is like a meditation thing. And I started to listen, and I thought you had quite an unusual voice. And I thought, can he do meditation? Because normally it's someone who sounds a bit foreign, doesn't it? And you had that real English accent. And I was just about to say, oh, no, I don't feel like meditation. And then I kept listening, and I was just completely, I think it was about a week ago now. And I was just completely blown away. And I just had this amazing experience. I mean, my different parts just came together in one whole. I've got a part of me that's kind of like a teenage self, and I've never been able to access that teenage self. But last night, listening to one of your programs, and listeners, these are the programs that are actually free on Glenn's app that all of us can get on the iPhone. They're the free ones. Haven't even started on the ones that you pay for yet. They are only really low price, but these ones that I've listened to so far, I mean, I accessed a part of myself that I hadn't for years and years of therapy, and this self came forward, and you did it was kind of like a healing thing, the anxiety. Do you remember that specific one I'm talking about?
What was the title? Which was it? Relax and Sleep Well?
No, it was the one. It's one of the free ones, and
Solfeggio meditations or mindfulness.
No, it wasn't the solfeggio. Although that one is absolutely brilliant as well. Hang on, let me go into the. Was mindfulness. There's 5 that. Oh no, 1, 2, 3. There's 4 that are free. And because I've just come across your amazing app, I've just been stuck on these so far. The mindfulness for releasing anxiety.
Oh yeah, that's quite a recent recording, that one. And we're it seems to be hitting the spot for people. And I think because I've been doing it quite a long time now. I've been a hypnotherapist for 20 odd years, and before I started making recordings, I'd seen literally 1,000 clients. So I'd kind of done my apprenticeship before I actually started making recordings. And because I was a musician before that, I used to play in pubs and clubs, that kind of thing. So I knew a little bit about recording. So marrying the two things up, the experience with seeing clients and then making recordings that I thought would connect with people, generally en masse. It really worked well. And I look at it now, I've been so fortunate to be, selling so many. I've sold like over 7 million.
Wow.
And it's wonderful, and so I really look at it as an art form, that every time I make a new recording, I put my heart and soul into it because I know it's going to be listened to by lots of people. So it's great. I love getting the feedback and the different ways they impact people. It's wonderful.
Yeah, because the one releasing anxiety, I can be quite anxious, if something's happening, like I'm moving soon, and just there's loads of fear around it. And then I think if you have a little piece of bad luck or things don't go well for you, you can kind of then get in a position where you haven't got much confidence.
And I think the thing is, we in this day and age we spend so much time in our heads, so much time thinking and worrying. There's lots of fear and anxiety in the world. When you spend a bit of time, like 25, 30 minutes, just going into the unconscious part of your mind through the recordings, it takes you to a different place. It takes you into your creativity, the real resource you've got inside yourself, the unlimited potential you've got. And the recordings take you into that space quite easily and quite comfortably. And so when you come out of it, you often feel like you've had an 8-hour sleep because it's so transformative, to be in that state. And it is such a powerful thing. I think we're the only species on the planet that doesn't use all of its brain all the time, whereas every other species does. So but we've got this unconscious part that we can only really access when we're in a meditative state. And so the recordings help you to get into that and to really access your superhuman potential, and or just to relax and feel more connected, more grounded, more mindful, and less in your head, less in that sort of monkey mind. And it's very, very empowering when you do that regularly. And I always use the analogy that if you wanted to build a real fit body, you'd go to the gym 4 times a week. And the mind is the same. When you're using meditation, you're doing the same thing with your mind. You're building a very strong, centered, calm mind. And letting and when you do that, you're able to deal with the everyday life stuff, all the fears, all the stuff that gets thrown at you, much, much more easily.
Yeah, we seem to be getting it a lot more. I mean, I don't know if you've heard of targeted individuals, individuals that believe they've been attacked sort of negative by, negative entities constantly and that kind of thing. There is that. There's society's become, I think, a lot more dog eat dog, and there is a lot of, rents are high, food is really high, and jobs are scarce. It's
I think it is. The world is. I think it comes back to kind of going deep with this. There's dark and there's light in this world, and we have a choice to align ourselves with the light or align ourselves with the dark in everything that we do. We're bombarded with decisions, and we make so many. They say we make more decisions in a week than our grandparents made in a year.
Oh yeah.
There's temptation everywhere. So we can align, and if you align yourself with the light, then your vibration changes, and you'll attract things into your life that are on that same frequency. And it makes life. We're all on this planet together, but we're all experiencing it in different ways. Across that spectrum, the light and dark, and it's down to the choices you make. The fact that you spend time. When you meditate. Vibrational energy, and that's because you're accessing the creativity to potential, and you're lifting your energy. If you're down the path smoking and drinking. Not that there's anything wrong with that. There's a time for that, but it's a low vibrational thing, and yeah, it's so, and I've done the full spectrum. Believe me, when I was younger, I used to, drink, take drugs, and get out of my nut at weekends or even all the time. I really experienced that kind of life to the fullest. And so I understand it. I was in a real kind of low vibration place back then, and life was a struggle. Everything I tried to do, I hit brick walls, and it was a real difficult time for me when I was young. And now, I do try to align myself with light things, things in the light, and good food, exercise, meditation, good people around me. And it makes the world a difference. It really does. Life then becomes more abundant and more full. And, I don't watch the news. I have a vague idea of what's going on, but the news is constantly like, pumping out negativity, and that affects you. If you're getting that all the time, it impacts you. So I really try and avoid anything that's negative or dark, or, and it does. It works, because I've been at both ends of that spectrum, and I've experienced what it does to you.
Yeah, it does. I worked for the News of the World for many years, over a decade. Then I worked for the Sun, and coming out of that, I mean, it was really easy money, and I sort of hit rock bottom. Went into sort of not working and wondering what to do, and that was a negative spiral where I'd sort of been spoon-fed loads of money and everything was going my way, and then you have to sort of turn it around and look at yourself really, and look at what you've been doing, and really sort of get your mind in a healthy place, because you're not sort of fudging out on materialism. I think that's a waste of a life sometimes, isn't it?
Absolutely. But it's kind of good to experience that, because then you've got the contrast, haven't you, when you move on and you find what it is you're supposed to be doing. You follow your life's path, and it's more rewarding. And I mean, I did all kinds of things. I was a taxi driver in London for 5 years before I used to drive up there at night time, and it was collar and tie work, but I met some really weird and wonderful people, from all ends of the spectrum. So that was a good experience before I became a therapist. I enjoyed that, and then I was a gigging musician. I played in pubs and clubs. I was never a fit working for companies and that. I just didn't buy into all the corporatism, materialism. I always had to do something that I enjoyed doing, and felt rewarded for doing it, and felt like I was doing it for a good reason. And
so how did you get into therapy then, being a therapist?
Well, it was when I was doing a cabaret show years ago. We were on the cabaret bill anyway. I wasn't doing cabaret work. I was in a duo, and there was a stage hypnotist on, and I was watching him doing his thing with the audience, and it kind of fascinated me. And it was a bit of a epiphany, because I suddenly saw in that techniques that I could use. I was more drawn to it for the therapeutic side than the entertainment side. But I saw in that there were tools for, things that I could fix in myself, because I'd had such a dysfunctional upbringing. I was expelled from school when I was 15. I used to run away from home when I was 12. Slept on the streets. So I had a lot of dysfunction, a lot of negative conditioning going on. And I knew that I had to get rid of this conditioning. I was sort of aware enough at that point to realise that I had to fix things internally before life would change externally. And in that moment, I saw this method that I realised I could use as a therapeutic tool to heal a lot of the dysfunction in me. And so from there, I signed up to a 2-year diploma with the British School of Clinical Hypnosis. And I loved it. I just took to it like a duck to water. And as soon as I learned self-hypnosis, I used to lay down, I used to meditate and project out my goals and imagine being abundant and having the life that I've got now. So from that sort of simple beginning, I used to project out all of these thoughts and feelings that as eventually created the life I've got now of abundance, success, happiness. Today I've been with loved ones, hanging out on the beach in Spain, and I live out here, and it's everything I ever wanted. And it's through that, working on my internal self for all of those years that has enabled me to create, the life that I want now, the life that I've got now.
So after you did your diploma, then you started to get patients, or you just used it for yourself?
As I was learning it, I was using it on myself. But then after 2 years, I'd qualified, and I had, that's the other thing. Once you've qualified as a hypnotherapist, they said at our college that only 5% would go on and become, have full-time careers in it, because it's one thing to know how to help somebody over a phobia, but to start to have a good success rate with people is another thing. And then, you to get repeat clients is another skill. So you kind of need to have a little bit of a business acumen as well. But I was able to, find my way there, and because I had such a passion for it and I believed in what I was doing, I think that came across in the sessions. And and I loved it. There was nothing better if somebody was a 30 a day smoker for 30 years and I stopped them smoking in one session. It was wonderful. Or if they'd had a debilitating phobia all their life, to suddenly break them out of that in one session. I saw one lady back in the day, it was 20 odd years ago, and she'd been under the doctor for 10 years, had phobias, all kinds of anxiety problems. And I'd spoken to her husband, who was a chemist, and I just happened to have a conversation with him about hypnotherapy, and he was at his wit's end with his wife's problem. They tried everything, but she was just getting worse and worse. And he brought her to see me, and I can't exactly remember what I did with her, but it was, we addressed the root causes of her anxiety, and it kind of went back to her childhood, and he was sitting in on the sessions because she was quite fearful of being hypnotized. And she experienced in the session a full regression, which is where she actually went back to being an 8-year-old child, talking and acting as an 8-year-old. And her husband was sitting there, with his mouth on the floor, seeing his wife talking like this. And I saw her for that session, and then she came back a week later, and she said that they said the 2 sessions they had were so transformative, because she got over so much of the anxiety, and the phobias disappeared, and she was able to hug her sons for the first time in her life. She was able to go to social things, and they actually wrote a book on it, the sort of before and after those sessions. And every year at Christmas, he would turn up at my office with a cake and a card. Even this was in England, even up until like 2 years ago, with a cake and a card, thanking me for transforming their life. But really, once I'd got the skills there, it was quite straightforward, and it was just like taking a gasket off, and all this came out, because she'd never looked at this type of therapy before. And it totally transformed their life. And they send me cards every now and again, because they've cycled from John O'Groats to Land's End and done all these amazing things, and her life has changed from that moment. So yeah, it's such a rewarding thing to be doing this kind of work and transforming lives.
What was the book called? Can you mention it?
Their book, I can't remember. They gave it to me 5 or 6 years ago, but I can't remember the name of it.
So how did it? I've had hypnotherapy before, where I have dropped down the ages. It can be quite fun when you regress. I remember my hypnotherapist dropping me down, and she went down 20 and then down, and you literally, it's bizarre, you can feel the ages, and you literally get flashings of things that happen through the ages. And
did you go into a past life?
No, I didn't go into it, but I've gone into a past life through meditation. There's an American woman who did a meditation. I went into a past life, met a native Indian who gave me something. It was a box with silver, and it had an engraving on it of feathers, and he passed it to me. And I said, "Oh, I said his name. I can't remember what his name was years ago now." And I was driving the car later after she'd kind of taken me to that, and all of a sudden I remembered that he was my best friend, and I had made the box myself,
Mm.
and it was really freaky, So I've had that kind of, and then spontaneous regression, actually,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
past lives, which is weird stuff.
They're always for me the most interesting because I've had people that have come to me and asked to be regressed into past lives, and sometimes I find that a little bit hit and miss. It's not always, you wonder if it's their imagination or if it's really their own, it really is a past life. And the best ones that I've ever experienced are when people have in sessions gone into past life spontaneously. And I had one lady who had a fear of the dark,
Mm,
and I hypnotized her. She was in a very, deeply relaxed state, and I regressed her back to the first time she experienced this fear.
mm,
And at that moment, she started relaying this experience where she was in a temple in Egypt, and there were these strange sacrifices going on, and it was very scary and it was dark. And she started talking about this fear, and then she started speaking what sounded like Egyptian to me.
mm.
It was certainly a foreign language, and she was speaking this language, and it was really fascinating to watch because in a normal waking consciousness, she didn't speak any other language.
Mm.
So at this point in the regression, she was able to fully speak, Egyptian, this language, and she came back a couple of weeks later, and the fear had completely gone for the first time. She just didn't have any fear at all. So
Mm.
she'd kind of purged it. It had gone in that
Mm.
session, and that's always the fascinating thing about hypnotherapy and seeing clients. You can have 10 people with the same issue, but you'll find a completely different route as to how you will, they'll get rid of that fear.
Mm.
It's the thing that I always try to do in one-to-one sessions is keep it very loose and guide them but never lead them.
Mm.
Just let them find the solution, and sometimes people find that in the strangest of ways.
It's odd that going regression would get rid of a phobia. Why is that? You just find where it came from, kind of thing.
Yeah, and they're always learned fears. The arachnophobia is still the number one phobia, and it's a learned fear. Either you can see a spider and have a negative reaction to that when you're a young kid, or you can see your mother scream at a spider.
Mm.
It's a
Mm.
secondary way of learning it. So just as you learn it through your unconscious mind, you can unlearn it. And it's almost like replacing a program. So you're going into the unconscious mind and taking out the program that learned the fear and replacing it with something positive. And it's really, comes into its own with phobias, because it is, hypnotherapy is very effective at clearing, phobias and there's such a long list of weird and wonderful phobias. I've seen people that've got a fear of balloons, a fear of, all kinds of strange things.
Yeah, I've got a fear of feather dusters, especially feather dusters with black feathers. I literally can freak out if I see one.
Really? So that
Yeah.
again, that's a learned fear. Somewhere along the line, maybe somebody waved it in your face as a kid and it freaked you out, and it's in there. That's a little program running.
Yeah. So what would you do then if I came to you as a client and said, "Oh, I want to get over this feather duster thing"? Would you immediately regress?
Yeah, I'd find out where it came from,
Right.
what's at the root cause. And then, sometimes you can do something as simple as imagining that root cause, seeing the scene again,
Mm.
but imagine it in a comical way, so imagine like Benny Hill music, something really quirky and weird running in the background, something
Mm.
humorous, because you can't experience anxiety and humor. They're incompatible states.
Mm.
So you kind of break up the image that way. You break up the connection to it and the feeling, the negative feeling. You break it up. That's one technique. if it's that with that kind of fear where it's, not a real heavy one, you could use something like that. So yeah, it kind of depends. I always judge it when I'm working with a client. I sometimes improvise when I get to the point where there needs to be some kind of clearing. Yes, fascinating work, and
yeah, it is. Have you heard of the Monarch programming, where it was a thing invented by the Nazis, where they got kids and deliberately split their personality, shattered their egos into parts, and then hypnotized various parts to use them as slaves? Have you heard of that?
no, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Monarch programming.
Yeah, Monarch mind control programming. The Nazis thought of it. Mengele, I think, used it
Yeah,
on kids. MK Ultra as well is.
MK Ultra. Yeah, I've heard of that. It's the American one, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's today. They're using that now.
I know, it's horrible. That is, I suppose, hypnosis used in a negative manner, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And hypnosis is a very powerful thing, but it can be used for good. It's the dark and the light again, isn't it? It can be
Mm.
used for good. It can be used for, control and manipulation. And yeah, the governments of the world know all about that in this day and age, and they're using it all the time. And I'm sure you saw it in the media world as well.
Mm. No, I didn't actually. Do they use it in the media world?
No, not you. I mean,
Oh
but
yeah, no, no.
you saw it or see it going on. I suppose if you newspapers a bit different, but the media, to get a bit controversial now, when the war on terror, the way they pump that out, it's
Mm.
the war on terror, and it's like mass hypnosis when you're constantly hearing it on the radio and on the TV. It becomes, and then people get frightened, and when people are frightened, they look to the government to protect them, and
Hi. I hope we are back on air again. I hope wow, I am completely unable to hear myself. That was a power surge. That was a power surge in the UK, which as the power surged, we had a power cut here. So I didn't actually drop you guys. Sorry, listeners, I didn't actually drop you guys. Everything here is as normal. It was the UK giving one of their power cuts that have been happening lately and crash me off the show. So I'm back on the show. So I am just going to try and get my guest back. That was really annoying. Yeah, I'm just checking. Okay. So one sec. Sorry about this. We had a great guest, unless it was the British government try getting really upset with us when we were talking about things that shouldn't have been talked about. So hang on a sec. I'm going to bring back my guest. Of course, it would happen today, wouldn't it? Yeah. Okay, let's bring back my guest. I'm just ringing my guest now.
hello.
Hi, that was a power cut, believe it or not. It just,
Oh no. At your end, obviously, yeah. Wow.
yeah, unless it was what you were mentioning.
Do you know what? I was just freaking me out because I'm thinking I've just said something quite controversial and then we get cut off.
I know. I thought, what's gone on? Is there something not plugged in? And I checked everything. Everything's plugged in. So, yeah, might have been that. It does happen, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, so
Yeah.
let's steer clear of the conspiracy stuff.
We do go out. We are a conspiracy, quite a conspiracy network. So,
Well, I did look at that. I did look. That's kind of why I've, opened up a little bit on those kind of things because, yeah. I saw a couple of your interviews before, and
yeah.
they were very interesting.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. I haven't had the show that long. I was a guest on other people's radios, and they said to me, you should get a show. So I've just really begun to. I think I've been doing it about a year now with my own show. I do enjoy it. I've got a young child, so it can be, especially during the summer holidays, I was a bit, unable to get back in time. So
How old's your little one,
he's
Chris?
12.
All right. Oh, good. It's a nice age.
It's a lovely age, but he is really demanding. I'm a single mum. He is quite, demanding, and there's some holidays have been, full on, really. Whoa.
Really, yeah. So you've been running around a lot and driving.
Yeah, I love him to bits. So I sort of, get up in the morning and, oh, what shall we do today? Go to the zoo or go here, go there, to make sure he's having a nice time. And
Yeah,
he does. But then after a month and a half of, being a Butlins redcoat, you get a bit sort of like, whoa, it's a bit draining, isn't it?
it gets a bit too much. You're looking forward to having your own time again.
Well, yeah, he went back today, so it was the first day, and he was so excited last night. He didn't sleep till quite late, and then my adrenaline started off. So I was playing your app actually to try and get to sleep because my adrenaline. I'm a terrible, really, really light sleeper, and if I've got a little worry going on in my head, then I just can't sleep, and then I think, oh, you haven't done this
Really
right.
struggle.
Oh, yeah, it's really bad. Yeah. And
It's
then,
funny. My wife, she uses she's got into sort of certain remedies for sleep, and she said the last couple of nights she's been I'll have to find out what they are, but she's been rubbing these remedies on my temples and throat, and I've been sleeping like a baby.
oh, really?
Amazing, yeah. They're and they are for sleep. They're to help you sleep. And we've got a little, and we've got an 18-month-old, and she uses them on him as well. And he's sleeping fantastically, 12 hours at a time. It's brilliant. So I'll email them to you, the remedies that she's using.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Did she
Yeah.
use your apps?
Well, Nick is a hypnotherapist as well, so she's got her own apps.
Oh, right. Okay. Do you two bicker about, no, mine's best. No, mine is best.
We sometimes have a little giggle, yeah. Mine's. Where's yours in the chart? That kind of thing. But no, it's great. We do actually. It's kind of we kind of work very well together like that because I don't see quite as many clients as I used to. I'm sort of semi-retired out here in Spain now. But when we were in the UK, if I had a lot of clients, I'd pass them on to Nick, and it always worked really well.
Mm. Yeah, you've got a natural, I think you've got a natural talent for it. Although my listeners can't hear it now, when you play one of your apps, your voice is quite rich and you've got that sort of vibration, that sort of love vibration. And if you're feeling like negative or worried, it kind of, it's a sort of a all's well in the world kind of a voice.
Yeah, people have said that a lot, and I think because when I make them, like I said to you, I'm very aware that lots of people are going to be listening to them, and I really do put my heart and soul into making the recording as good as it can possibly be,
Mm,
and so I'm imagining as I'm recording it, the listener, like a one-to-one, almost like a one-to-one session,
mm,
and really working as I would as if I had a client in front of me,
mm,
and I do because I had really a messed up childhood myself, and I went through all the things that I did, and I found my way out of it. I do have a lot of empathy. I understand people who become drug addicts. I took so many different heavy drugs when I was young that myself. And it's funny, just recently, this is kind of where my life was at back then. I had a friend that I hadn't seen for 35 years suddenly get in touch with me, and he was quite amazed. He said, "I can't believe what you're doing." He said, "It's incredible." He said, and I said, "Well," and he was writing all over my Facebook, so I messaged him. I said, "Look, get in touch and we'll catch up, fill in the last 35 years." I said, "So what have you been up to?" And he said, "Well, I've just done a 20 stretch."
mm.
And he's been in prison for 20 years.
Wow.
And when we lived together when we were like 16, we were best buddies for a little while. I wasn't, he wasn't my best mate, but we hung around a lot, and but even then, he'd pick me up and I remember we'd be out in a car and I'd say, "It's a nice car." I'd say, "Where did you buy this?" He said, "Oh no, I've just stolen it." And it was the kind of kid he was. He was quite a lovable lad, but he just had so much dysfunction in him, and he couldn't help stealing. He even stole a clock from our house once, and came back an hour later, and obviously racked with conscience. He knocked on the door and he said to my mum, "I'm really sorry, Mrs. Harrold, but I've just nicked your clock." And he gave it back to my mum. It was like he couldn't help himself. So anyway, it was really interesting getting in touch with him all these years later, and he'd obviously progressed to bigger and badder things. And he became a drug addict, and he was robbing banks back in the 90s to pay for his treatment to get off drugs because he couldn't get any help in that way.
And then he served a 20, did he, for a bank?
A 20 for doing a number of banks. Yeah, it was really, but he's become an artist. He's actually a painter. So he found a talent while he was in prison, and he's used it in a positive way. He's also said he's become a Buddhist. So there's salvation for everyone. There's redemption for everyone if you can align yourself with the light. The lighter things in life. And for me, I never went. I was a bit of a tearaway. I never went, but I always wanted to do good. I just didn't know how to when I was younger. But eventually, so my point, as I said at the beginning of this conversation, I wanted, once I found my way, once I found hypnotherapy and meditation, the law of attraction, I found these tools that could help me change all that dysfunction in me and transform my life. And little by little, it didn't happen overnight. I had to, work hard at it and, really, graft away at it. But eventually, over time, the small successes became bigger and bigger, to the point where, I ended up signing a major book deal, and wrote 7 books with Ryan in the UK, McGraw-Hill in the States, and I was a kid who was expelled at 15.
I haven't seen your books. Great, you've got books. I'm so excited. I'm gonna, as soon as I get off here, I'm gonna be, what are they?
Yeah.
What are they all about? Excellent.
They pretty much, Ryan signed me up and they wanted me to kind of replicate what I'd done on audio. So I'd written, the first book was called De-Stress Your Life. They were kind of fairly sort of mainstream books, whereas I was, at that time I was opening up more spiritually. I wanted to put a lot more spirituality into the books, which I do in my recordings. And I think that's the element you were talking about, is that warmth, the empathy, the sort of compassion. That comes from a spiritual place, the understanding that we're all souls on this journey, just making our way. And, we've all got a story to tell. We've all, it's a heroic journey, this life, it's full of pitfalls and difficulties. We're bombarded by so much information. So I look at, we're all souls just on this journey, and that's where the sort of empathy comes from. So with the books, I wanted to put more of that into the books, more spirituality, but they kind of kept the early books fairly mainstream.
Right.
But the latest book, the last book I did in 2012, that was called The Answer, and it had a bit more spiritual depth to it. There was a little, it was a bit of a compromise between myself and Orion at the time. And yes, that's the last one. So maybe check that one out. It's called The Answer.
Oh, excellent.
I'm working on a new book at the moment while I'm out here in Spain. And it's lovely because I'm not under any deadline. I can just write as I want. And I want this book, I've got a good feeling about this book. I think it's going to be, going to have the X factor, something magical in it. And,
well, I did think your, talking of magic, I did think your hypnosis, the apps I've listened to, I did think that they've got something magic in it. Because first of all, you reminded me a bit when the penny dropped that I was listening to hypnosis, because I just thought it was meditation. And then I had it playing continually through the night. And then I suddenly thought, oh, this is hypnosis, because it's not in your face hypnosis, is it really?
No, I do it for that reason. I want to make it very accessible.
Yeah.
Because I have 80-year-old ladies listening to it. Younger kids listen to them now because of being on the App Store. So I want to make them accessible for all. But, always my aim with the recordings was to make them, really safe. I wanted to make them safe first and foremost, but I also wanted to make them effective. So, as I get into the recording, I take people deeper and deeper using, sometimes I use sound effects, certain frequencies to induce certain states, but make them feel really safe at the same time. And yeah, it's probably those two things that have made them work so well, the safety and the fact that, I make them effective.
Yeah, I played it. You're talking to safe. I played one to my son, and he went, "I'm not going to just let go and follow that guy." Said, "I'm not going to trust him." And I said, "Oh, come listen to it now. It's brilliant." And he said, "Ah." So yeah, so I guess some people have that. I don't have that trust issue. Once you hear something and you know it's good, you can. But he was like, "I'm not going to let go."
It's funny, yes. Sometimes people, they say that, yeah, because voices are very personal, aren't they?
Yeah.
As a journalist, people will, my voice now on the recordings is fairly neutral. But when on my earlier recordings, I used to get reviews on Amazon that would say, he sounds like a guy off of EastEnders, or he sounds like Builder,
Filter.
an Essex Builder. And to me, that was the poshest I could possibly speak. Not the poshest, but the most correct way I could possibly speak. So I've kind of learned to not to make them as fairly neutral, so that there's no sort of bias. Because sometimes you can hear a voice and it might sound like your favourite uncle, or it might sound like a creepy old uncle that you remember. And so you'll immediately have an association with that voice that is possibly positive or negative. So yeah, but most of the time, I don't get so much of that anymore, the Essex Builder or the EastEnders, because I've re-recorded them a few times and they seem
Yeah. Well,
to go.
once you're listening, you forget, that it just kind of grabs you. And you reminded me a bit of Paul McKenna. There's a bit of that going on, like the Paul McKenna thing. But when I've listened to Paul McKenna tapes, like Build Confidence and etc., my mind wanders. I'm listening and then I get bored.
Yeah,
And so off goes my mind. And then before I know it, I'm thinking about shopping and the shopping list. And then I've cooked the dinner in my head. And all of a sudden I think, oh shit, it's at the end of the goddamn thing. And I haven't listened to it. And then to me, it becomes like a chore. But I find with yours, there's so much going on in them that it sticks. My mind sticks. And even if it does wander off, like a really butterfly mind, it comes back. And
yeah,
then it just comes back and it's not like too late. You can kind of hop in at any kind of level,
yeah.
there's not sort of, oh shit, I've missed a bit. It's okay to sort of lose a bit and then hop in again, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I wanted to layer them, like when you listen to a Pink Floyd album or Radiohead, there's so much going on in the music. It's
Yeah,
layered.
yeah.
And I kind of had that in mind a little bit when I made the recordings, and to keep them interesting. If
Yes.
people are going to spend half an hour listening to them, it's no good just getting a piece of library music, sticking it on, and then warbling over the top. There's plenty of recordings out there. I wanted to do something that was interesting, and so when I see clients one to one, I kind of, I almost break the sessions down into 5 steps. So there's the introduction, then the induction, the deepening method, post-hypnotic suggestions, affirmations, and then the awakening part. And so with the recordings, I kind of break them down into that, and I use different pieces of music for each one of those to suit, the part that I'm working on at that time, and to make them sound warm as well. I love to, a lot of people have said it's like being wrapped in a warm blanket, and yeah, that was always the aim, to make them interesting and make them safe, make them effective.
Yeah, there's the water, there's the water, and then you've got the didgeridoo, and then you've got the sort of like shamanic sounds, and then that draws you, and then you think you know it, and then something else comes in, and then it's really layered, isn't it? And that I think helps your mind stick. And then when you've got the conscious mind sticking, then you come in with all these affirmations. And what I've noticed about your affirmations, I've always hated affirmations because I think, things like, oh, you're a more confident person now. And my mind says no, not letting you in, because it says cheesy no, and it blocks it. So I can't do affirmations. But I notice with your affirmations, you phrase them in a completely different and very into my head, which is
and I use a technique when I get to the affirmations point. I'm normally sort of 20 minutes into the recording, and people are normally very receptive at that point because I've used the deepening methods. So at that point they're ready to take on board the affirmations, and I've because of all the feedback I've had over the years and the communication I've had with people that use the recordings, I kind of know what people want, and I get them to a point where I get them to really take ownership of those affirmations, and to allow them to really sink into their unconscious. And I encourage that before they actually affirm them. And I also use this echo technique, that when they hear the affirmation, it slowly echoes and fades, and so it's got the feeling of sinking into your unconscious mind. But you're doing it yourself. You're taking ownership of that affirmation, and that's it's kind of, I never learned that from it. It was just a technique I've developed. I kind of started with it, actually. I did it early on, and but I've taken it on as time's gone on, and it's effective. I know it hits the spot with a lot of people, because people are craving these things. They want to feel happier. They want to feel stronger, more content, more confident. So it's easy if you're resonating with the recording. It's so easy to take that on board. If you really set it up right. Because that's what people want. And I'm just really, with the recordings, using people's own inner resources, but connecting with them in such a way that they're doing it themselves and really feeling good as they're listening to it. And that's the thing. Like I say, I could have never in a million years then envisaged doing the work I'm doing, because it's such an unusual thing. But it is incredible to put recordings out there and to be connecting with. I mean, that one recording, that anxiety recording, we put it on an app called Insight Timer, which is they've got thousands of recordings by different people on there, and we put it on there at the beginning of this year, around, must be January, February time, and it's been listened to 200,000 times on this one app. And it's the number 2 trending on there at the moment out of 2,500 recordings. And that's just amazing that so many people are listening to it. That's just on that one app. It's not including my apps and everywhere else it's being played. So
I think it's because
I get so much feedback.
I think it's because it helps the mind stick, and you're not bored. We all get bored so easily these days. And if you're listening and it's helping your mind stick, and the rest is getting through, and that is coming, like you use the echoing, and it really works. I mean, I've been keeping it on play through the night. So if I wake up in the night, which I often do, there it is playing. So I'm getting bombarded with positives,
Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I almost feel as well it has an effect of senses. It seems to trigger my sense of smell, as well as, because it's coming through the ears. It's and I'm not listening on headphones. It comes through the ears, but it triggers my sense of smell, bizarrely, and also my sight senses. So you seem to be able to get in there and trigger everyone's, like, their senses somehow.
Well, maybe it's heightening your sensitivity as you're listening to it and you're tuning into it. It's heightening your sensitivity, so all your other senses are becoming more, are activated and heightened in some way. That's interesting. Is it only when you listen to the recording, or is it after?
Oh, it's during. Yeah, it's during. Yeah. Especially, because you go through the walk in the forest, don't you, with the colors, and then the water that's pure and clean, and so I start then seeing the water and feeling it, and Then I had this side of me, weirdly, when I was listening to that, this side of me that does worry. It's almost like an inner teenager that's, quite sort of shabbily dressed. And when that sort of came forward, and then when you got to the point where you said to heal that part, then I saw her going into the water. And then when I heard the bubbling, it was like she was bathing in the water and then catching it in her hand.
Ah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and then she came out really like renewed. And then you started talking about it being renewed. It was
Mhm.
brilliant. I just thought this is a bit spooky. It was almost like I felt that you'd used some kind of magic or something. I mean, it's not your average run of the mill little thing, is it? It's sort of bit,
Mm, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, the recordings. Like I say, when I record them, I always do a little bit of it's kind of a little bit of yoga to get into my body, so that when I'm recording them, my voice changes. I can hear it now. I'm in my throat at the moment, but when I'm working on the recordings, I kind of get into my body, so my voice changes a little
Mm.
bit. I have a different sort of resonance and tone, and yeah, and I do imagine it's like a one-to-one session. So that I'm talking to somebody there and then, and guiding them through a therapy session. Uh,
Mm.
and it is a lovely feeling to be, because once I make the recording, it's like you're talking about the recording there, and I'm thinking, oh, has it got that bit now? I can't remember.
I felt that,
I
yeah.
made this range. I actually should, with the mindfulness range, I just done a range of 6 mindfulness meditation recordings, and I did those with a guy called Russ Davey, who actually works on my IT stuff as well, and he created the music for them.
Hmm.
I've made over 80 recordings now, and with the majority of them, I've created the music. With a co-authored range. Well, I'll do the meditation, and I'll work with somebody else's music. And with this range, I worked with Russ Davies, so yeah, I must credit him with a lot of that, because some of the sounds, he was quite nervous initially about doing it, because he felt the responsibility of it. But he's a really talented guy, and he delivered some fantastic music that works perfectly. And we honed it between us, honed the meditation, and it kind of hits the spot. But it's like when you finish the recording, I then release it, put it out there, and then sometimes people 5 years later will message me and talk about the recording, and by then I've done another dozen or so, or 20 recordings, and I've forgotten what's on that one, so I'll have to
Mm.
go back to it and check it out and listen. And so it's an ongoing process, and I kind of now release stuff when I feel inspired. So if people message me and ask for a certain type of recording, and enough people are asking for the same thing, now I'll do something along those lines. The last one I think was a law of attraction recording, which I released a couple of weeks ago, and it's early days, but it's getting some nice feedback already.
What happens in that one? I haven't heard that.
So with that one, it's a visualization where I get them to focus on something that they want to attract into their life.
Right.
And with the law of attraction, it can be for abundance, it can be for financial success, it can be to attract a new partner into your life. But it's good to get really clear about what it is you want to attract. And for me, all those years ago, 25 years ago, when I learned about the law of attraction, I would, I lived in a tiny 2-bed terrace place, and I was totally broke at the time. But I used to imagine, driving an Aston Martin car, living in a big house, having a villa in Florida, and I used to constantly project this out, this goal, and my conscious mind would kick in with thoughts saying, well, how are you going to do that? You've never earned more than $2,000 a month. How are you ever going to live that? But I had to override all that programming, that negative fear stuff, and continue to project this out. But I really believed in what I was doing. I believed in the process, and I believed that my life would change. And I remember it must have been about 10 years later, I went and I bought an Aston Martin, a new Aston Martin, and just before I went to buy it, by chance, I found this picture that I'd had on my computer of a new Aston Martin that I'd put on there and used the law of attraction to manifest. And I'd forgotten all about it, but I used to visualize having this car. And there I was, just about to go and buy this dream car that I'd always aspired to having. And and that was the law of attraction. It worked to the letter for me. Everything I visualized, everything I wanted came, I manifested it. And so with this recording, it's all that experience that I've had going on that journey, and it's, when you listen to it, I get people to focus on the thing that they want to attract into their life, and I use sounds and frequencies to deepen the trance, and then get to a point in the recording where I imagine them projecting this out with every cell in their mind and body, this goal out into the universe. And then beyond that, I get them to imagine they're actually living it, so they're in the house, in the car, or they're in the relationship that they want, and imagine it as real, so I really engage their feelings in it. And that's the latest recording.
Oh, excellent. Where can I access that?
I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you when we finish. I'll send you a link.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I was thinking that this morning after I did the school run, I saw 2 Ferraris, and at the moment I'm not earning anything, which is odd because I used to in the past, and I'm forever beating myself up for not investing, but I'm not that kind of person. And I often think, how am I going to earn stuff? But I see Ferraris. I saw 2 today, and I thought, I want that. I thought, I really want that. And then I thought, well, how am I going to get that when I'm sort of, not knowing how the hell to earn money or how to move forward, But there must be a way, because I don't believe it's a natural situation just to be like I am, just to be stagnant and sitting there. I think everybody's got a purpose, haven't they?
Absolutely. It's really, abundance is a natural state for us, but through a lot of negative conditioning, we learn to block it, or we think, success only comes to other people. There's a lot of fear stuff around success. For me, all those years ago, I kind of recognized that, and I worked on letting go of that negative programming. And for me, more than anything, I wanted to be successful, to kind of prove my teachers wrong, to prove, my upbringing where I was written off and labelled a failure and that kind of thing. For me, I needed it for that, to get over that. I've never been like a breadhead, I'm not money driven. I'm really not, I've given away a lot of money, but I wanted to do it for that reason. I wanted to get over my own negative conditioning. That was the drive. And when I got the Aston Martin, I got the big house, I got the villa in Florida, but I realised it didn't, it's the old cliche, but it doesn't actually, it just makes life more comfortable. It doesn't actually change a lot, and I felt good, my self-esteem was good. But I kind of needed to go on that journey to prove that I wasn't the waster that I was always labelled. Now it's not, the material goals are just not there at all. For me, it's all about the spiritual path is the one for me. Raising my consciousness, raising my vibration, and showing other people how to do that through my recordings. My recordings are an amazing opportunity for me to spread that love and that light, that I never had when I was growing up. And that's where it's at for me.
I think you're doing that because I sometimes get in a negative state, especially just before sleep. I don't know why that happens, but I can get really majorly negative before sleep, and then it starts going through my head as I put my head on the pillow. You're a loser. You haven't earned money. You should have invested. At your age, you should have a house. You haven't got a house. Loser. And you can't really get to sleep on that, can you?
That's a difficult one. That's not the best way to drop off, is it?
And I find myself not being able to sleep because I'm too busy beating myself up and thinking, how bad I've done, and it's not very fair. Your son's not going to have it easy now, is he? There's all that guilt stuff. And then I put on one of your apps and I was playing it, and I did feel it sort of lit up the whole room with a kind of a love feeling, and it made me think, I'm going to be okay, because you kind of get like surrounded by that negative energy, and then you kind of need positive energy, and it's hard to know where to get that positive energy from. But you've definitely captured that, and definitely you can kind of hear it in your voice, and then it's like it kind of clicks the listener's mind into that positive. I suppose that's what enabled me to drop off to sleep. I mean, I wasn't necessarily listening to a sleeping program, one of your programs that was sleep inducing, but it put my mind in a really, really negative, really positive, abundant kind of a space where I felt good enough that I could relax.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? The negative thoughts and the negative programming. I don't think anyone on this planet is free of that. It's something that it's always there, isn't it? We've always got it, and even now I've been doing this work for 25 years. I've been on this path where my life has continue to become more abundant. But even now, sometimes I wake up and you've got all these negative thoughts there, and it can, there's a multitude of ways. And we get bombarded by information, and all of that impacts us. Even being around other people, you can pick up energies from other people. I can sense that sometimes, from other people, and they're not necessarily, talking negatively or being negative, but sometimes you just pick up that it's like when I used to go to football matches. I was a Chelsea fan, and I go to a football match, and I found that when I came back, my ex-wife at the time, she would say, "You always swear a lot in the few days afterwards. You swear, and you're a bit more macho. A bit of a lad." And it kind of just being in that environment, in that sort of testosterone fueled environment.
Oh yeah.
It would impact me for a couple of days afterwards. And without me realizing it. So we're always surrounded by different kinds of energies. And I think as you become more conscious and more aware, you start to see it more clearly, and you start to then be a bit more discerning, with who you mix with, where you go, and now and again, there's nothing wrong with going to a football match or being in a pub and having a couple of pints. That's fine. But if just to have the consciousness of the way different environments affect you is a good thing, and it can steer you on a positive, a good path, a clearer path. And as with the monkey mind, you were saying all the negative thoughts. I think the thing is to accept that's part of being human, to have that. But the thing is not to dwell on it. I never, even if I get that, I never dwell on it. It's the 5-minute thing, then I'm out of it. I switch my mind, because of the techniques, the hypnotherapy techniques, I can switch my mind onto something positive. But I also am very aware that if you do have a reoccurring theme, if there's something that's coming to you regularly, a negative thought, then it's probably something that you need to clear, to get rid of. And that's where hypnotherapy can work really well. And sometimes the recordings can do that, but sometimes you might need a one-to-one session with a really good therapist to get rid of something that's reoccurring. If it's coming back to you all the time, then that's an indicator that it's probably some kind of conditioning from your childhood or something that you need to get rid of.
Mine's just around money. I think if I had money in a house, I wouldn't give a damn about things that people give a damn about, like getting older or relationships. It's just around money that I think, well, at this age I should have more. I should have work, and I was earning big bucks. I was earning 6-figure sums working as an investigative journalist for the News of the World, and then the Sun, did a bit for the Mail. And when I was riding high, I should have really bought a house, and I didn't. And I think I can't forgive myself for that, especially having a son, and now of course not having work, and rents being so high, and we've got to leave where we are at the moment, and just looking at places, it's just the rents are so high, and so I find it hard to forgive myself that I wasn't that I was too daydreamy enough to have my shit together and think about money and investing. And then you look around and you see other people and you think, oh, they got it right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's always I don't think, again, and nobody goes through life making great decisions all the time. If you weigh up all the good decisions you've made against the bad decisions, you kind of got to give yourself a break and think, I didn't do the right thing there, but, for whatever reason that didn't happen. But it's never too late, and like I said earlier, that if you want to become abundant and you want to attract things, then you've got to work at it, like you would if you say you wanted to build a really fit, toned body. You'd have to go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week. You'd be working out, looking at your diet, really going into it. And abundance is the same thing. If you want it, it's out there. There's, in the world that we live in, there's abundance everywhere. There's around all over the place. And you've just got to align yourself with that abundance, and you've got to have that mindset. So, meditating. I'll send you the law of attraction recording, because that will help. It will help you to really clarify what it is you want out of life. And start to make lists. And the answer book, that's a good one. That's all about creating abundance in your life. So the recording along with the book will make a big difference. But it is something you have to work on. For me, I did all that negative programming up to the age of about 30. Then suddenly I learned these techniques and I started to apply them. And my ex-wife at the time, Ali, she would say that I'd be meditating. I got into such a deep state with it. She said sometimes the bed would be vibrating, and I couldn't feel it, but I was so deep into it. And I used to have, I'd have abundance affirmations on my computer. When I was driving anywhere, I was doing mantras about abundance. I'm always in the right place at the right time. Abundance comes freely and naturally to me. All of my needs are constantly met. I was on it all the time, and I believed in it. And it wasn't like suddenly loads of money landed in my lap, but over time I started to become more abundant as I continued with it, and to the point where 10 years later I had the Aston Martin, I had a big house, bought a place in Florida, and it worked. It really worked for me 100%. Everything that I'd meditated on and projected out there came to me.
Are you still, sorry, Glenn, you've cut off a time.
But you've got to work at it. That's the one thing. It's not, people sometimes say, I've been meditating.
Oh, have we crashed? I can hear you creaking. Glenn, you still with me? Your picture has gone really frozen.
Are you there, Chris?
Yeah, I am.
Yes. I was there.
Yeah. I can hear you now.
Yeah, back on, yeah. So there's a little glitch.
It's annoying, bloody glitches. So is it okay, do you think, just to...
So that's the thing, Chris. It's just about really
wow.
Focusing on my and putting yourself in situations where we're breaking up.
Yeah, it is breaking up badly. Gosh, I don't know whether to get drop and pick up again. Are you with me? I guess.
Yeah, I can hear you. It's crackling a bit.
It is crackling. Yes. Okay. Now you put it down, and I will bring you back. Okay. I'm sorry, everybody. Hopefully. So I am going to get Glenn back, and I'm sorry that this is happening. Gosh, I will be getting in plenty of trouble with Hawk, but it's not my fault. So hang on. Right. I hope I'm back on air again. I am going to try and I'm going to try and get my guest back. Wow, that was annoying, wasn't it? That we had a good guest. Wow, this has been difficult, really difficult. Difficult show. let's keep trying. On let alone my guest. No answer with my guest. So I think I'm there. It's why you help me. Okay, Patrick is very kindly saying there telling me that I have lost my guest. Wow, that's so annoying because he. Oh gosh, so annoying. Whoa, this is fun, isn't it? Okay, let me see. Right, I'm going. I add him to the call to bring him back on again. It's ringing. That's all I can do. If somebody says that I'm off again. Oh gosh. Wow, this is.
Hello, Chris.
Oh, hi. Bad, isn't it? It's annoying too that this is happening. Can you hear me? I think I'm okay. Can you hear me?
How you doing? Still quite. Yeah, it's cracking a bit, but yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, oh gosh, that's annoying since you were coming out with some great stuff. Gosh, I feel like strangling somebody now.
Oh, it's just the technology, to guess, isn't it?
Yeah, it's annoying.
Yeah.
I think, oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
It's a little bit, yeah, it's cracking in and out, but I can hear you.
Yeah, it is, yeah, it's, you were talking about the law of attraction, and then we lost you.
Yeah. 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 So the thing with that is the thing with the law of attraction. It's something that you have to work at. You know, it's something that, you know, if you want to be abundant and you want to have money, you want to have success, whatever it is, you know, be really clear about that. Be crystal clear about what it is you want to attract into your life, and then, you know, spend every single day, put aside time where you're meditating on that. Are you still with me, Chris?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. So put aside a time every day where you're, you know, make it a part of your life.
Right.
Because as I said, you know, when I was on that road, when I discovered that 25 years ago, I'd have affirmation cards up in everywhere. You know, I'd be doing mantras in my car that I'm always in the right place at the right time. Abundance comes freely and naturally to me. And I'd have all these affirmations I'd be working on, you know, when I was driving, when I was in the shower. A part of my life, you know, it became something that I did every single day. And then, you know, then I'd be meditating as when I had sort of 20 minutes on the things that I wanted to achieve. And yeah, the law of attraction recording will help you do that. But it is something you've got to work on. You've got to make it an everyday part of your life so that you're resonating with this frequency of abundance that is going to put you in the right place. It's going to get you to meet the right people at the right time. And it really, career I just got so lucky, you know. I met the right people, and you know, people will come to me and, you know, take big orders off me for my recordings, you know, when they were on physical format, on CD and even cassette, you know. And yeah, it worked. You know, I was constantly on it. And to use that analogy, if I had been working at the gym using the same amount of energy, I'd have been like a bodybuilder, you know, had a physique like those bodybuilder guys. And so it's that I always use, if you know, you can create any kind of abundance you want because it's out there. You just got to tune into that frequency and align your own vibrational energy with that frequency of abundance.
Yeah. Do you think that people can get on a losing swing if they sort of align themselves with anything else? I used to have some, you know, where everything I touched turned to gold, where everything was like coming to me and I was meeting people and that abundance thing. And then I sort of lost it. I mean, how do people lose that, or are they just not doing it properly to start with?
I think, yeah, certainly you can go the other way. You know, there are people who are always afraid of losing money or fearing not having enough. And you know, if that belief is rolling around your head for long enough, you're going to attract that. That's what's going to happen. So it's being conscious of what you want and what you want to achieve, and then, you know, having a clear set of goals. Make you manifest that life. It's going to take you into that life, and it takes focus and got into it. I had so much failure at that point in my life. I've never had £1,000 in my bank, and you know, nobody ever helped me in life. And you know, my mother felt me, and he said, I was the worst kid in school for 10 years. I was, you know, I just tried to be a rebel. I was a punk. It was in the days of punk, you know, the Clash, the Sex Pistols, and I had green hair and, you know, dog collar. And I was angry with the world because of my upbringing had been so dysfunctional. And so I just was a manifestation of my environment, and everything in my adult life, when I got into my 20s, everything I touched turned to stone. You know, relationships didn't last, but so, you know, discovering hypnosis and the law of attraction, and, you know, spirituality, and understanding that I could raise my consciousness to experience a different life was so transformational, and it took me into a different world, you know, and life didn't change overnight, but over time, you know, as I said, I'm living the life I always wanted to live. You know, I feel so abundant and in every way, and it's the action I took all those years ago.
Yeah. So the law of attraction can help you raise your consciousness, or is there a special meditation for that?
I mean, I've just released one of the mindfulness recordings is mindfulness meditation for higher consciousness.
Right.
And that one specifically is to help you, you know, go beyond your mind and expand your consciousness and understand, see life in a different way, experience life in a different way. And, you know, I've done that from kid who had a low sort of vibrational energy to being, you know, living a life that's much more expanded, more abundant, you know, more conscious. And yeah, and that's been a process, that's been a journey, and with that recording specifically, that can help you in that way.
Oh, excellent. So if
I think the way to change the world now is, it's not through, you know, just going to say it's not, I realise, you know, not fighting against the government and all the corruption and the greed in the world. It's really about us becoming more conscious and more light. Because when we do that, and if enough of us do that, then we're going to change the world. You know, it's people power that ultimately changes things.
Yeah.
And that will change the thing. And so, you know, higher consciousness is vital for me.
Do you think
You're
that,
still breaking up a little bit, Chris.
I know, so are you. Do you think that there's something, going on to try and make us negative, to keep us down? I suppose you've heard of the ascension, and, do you think there's something going on against that ascension?
Yeah, that's this, they don't want an enlightened conscious mass. That's what they want, the New World Order, the Illuminati, the elites, the people who own the center, in a state of
Losing.
ignorance. Yeah, it's the world we live in. It's tough. It makes things tough. I stepped out of that completely. What's wanted to do that? It's, again, that was always on my law of attraction list. But I do think it's finding time. Running the show are much more aligned with the dark than the light, and it's a strange world.
I think they use magic on us as well, but we don't realise that they do use, like you were saying, like mass hypnosis tricks, and of course we're not clued up with that, but they're using it all the time.
I mean, like people say, how did Hitler do what he did? But he used a lot of he used hypnosis because he was such a powerful orator. But he understood language patterns. He understood how to hypnotize the masses, and he used the media at the time. He also used Egyptian symbolism, the occult. He was using that, and he hypnotized the whole nation. And that's the thing that people could never really get their heads around. How could he get away with what he did? Well, he did it because he was gemmed up on, those techniques, those and the occult and all the darker stuff. And certainly the way the American government have gone about the things they're doing, they're becoming, kind of. It's a very dark world, and they use a lot of that. They know how to, like the MK Ultra stuff, hypnosis, the media. The media is the brainwashing tool for them. They just, they say, I think there's, you probably know this better than I do, but so many, the media outlets now are owned by a smaller and smaller group all the time. It used to be a lot more, the ownership of it was a lot broader, but nowadays it's controlled these days.
Yeah, they don't use.
The truth is just.
Yeah.
I think if Hillary Clinton gets in power, which is highly likely, then. One of the things I saw her recently saying is that she's going to shut down a lot of the alternative media sites because they know they're a threat to them. People are waking up to what's really going on in the world, not through the mainstream news, but through the alternative media. And so, that's their biggest threat. That's their biggest enemy because, people are suddenly starting to question all these things that we've been told for years and years. And, we need revolution everywhere.
Yeah, I was listening the other day. Somebody was it was something freedom or awareness in America, and there was some doctor saying that the chemtrails or something stops our consciousness raising higher and all this kind of stuff. I thought, geez.
I saw Prince talking about that.
Oh, I'm not hearing you. What did you say?
Are you there, Chris?
Yes, I can slightly hear you.
Yeah, the singer. I saw a video. Yeah, there was a video recently where I saw the singer Prince talking about that chemtrails. And there's another one who died young.
Yeah.
Things anyone from John Lennon, Martin Luther King, all these people that Princess Diana, Bob Marley, anyone who speaks out and is genuinely influential, and speaks out about these kind of things, they never seem to make old bones, and it can't always be a coincidence.
I know.
You know, it's. I think if people really just shock people to the core.
Yeah.
You know, the good thing is the alternative media sites are a lot of people. You know, going back to my original point, the main thing is fight fire with fire, because you know you're lowering yourself to their vibration. But through raising your consciousness and opening your heart and staying in that love energy, that vibration, if enough of us do that, we will change the world. It will. You know, Carl Gustav Jung said that there's the collective unconscious that we're all linked up to, and once enough of us learn something, it spreads to the rest of humanity because we're all linked up. And that's the secret, that's the key. You know, so it's not to fight them at their own game, you know, with violence and negativity. We need to raise our vibration to change the world, and that's probably the thing I'm most proud of in my recordings, that, you know, in my own small way, I'm doing that.
Yeah, no, you are. You really are. I mean, you put me in a positive state of mind, and if I'm not in a negative state, then I can, you know, reach out and help people. And I did feel like really, really strong. They're very, very strengthening, I thought, and I felt really, really strong. And I started to do a story on the people. I saw a program, the people out in the Niger Delta, piracy, near where they're doing the oil mining out in Nigeria. They're moaning about pirates, but they put the oil wells in, and the oil mining, they've ruined the waters for fishing. So they've all these poor people that are just living. That was terrible, this TV program. They were just living on like rubbish tips, you know. It was like really shocking.
I mean, thank God for good journalism, you know, where people expose these, you know, these terrible things that go on, you know, that these big companies do. You know, because those people are, you know, the villagers and people who suffer at the hands of those companies, they haven't got a voice. So, you know, when you've got a good journalist that, you know, that go out there and expose those things, that's powerful, isn't it? And
it is powerful,
yeah, the world needs a lot more of that at the moment.
It does, yeah, it does.
Yeah, we're still breaking up a bit, Chris. Do you want to try? Should we try another night?
Yes.
We had a real good flow, didn't we, a while back? But it's become a bit distorted now.
I know, it's terrible. We should do, and we'll make a time show, and yeah.
Maybe let's do another one. Well, for whatever reason, ever since I got on the conspiracy stuff, it went a bit haywire, didn't it?
I know, yeah, we were all right to start with, and then, but that does happen. I find if I'm doing a show with someone, we're talking about important things, it just goes, it gets hacked into, people hacking.
Really?
Yeah, it does. It gets hacked to death, and
Wow.
before long, the show is just chopped to bits. And but people listening understand that, and they understand that when it does get hacked, that's because we're saying something important. So it works. Often it works in the other way, that the listeners think, oh, okay, right, that's an important person, I'll get onto their stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So don't worry too.
It's nice to talk about it as well, because, you know, they kind of, you know, my personal beliefs. I'm not a Russell Brand or someone who's made it my thing to talk about it all the time, but I do have strong beliefs about it all. And my thing is like the raising of consciousness, you know, it's about, and we're, you know, we're fighting back, but in a positive way, you know, with our hearts. And yeah, if enough of us can do that, then that's the way the world will change.
Exactly. Before you go, can you tell people where to get hold of you and your books?
Yeah, well, my main website is glennharrold.com. That's where That's my personal website. As far as my books, you can get them on Amazon. They're all freely available there. My recordings are also on the App Store, the Android Store, Amazon, Windows. And I put out, there's a lot of free recordings out there that people can download. So you can, the biggest recording I've got is one called Relax and Sleep Well. And within that, there's 4 free recordings. So you can have a good listen to those. And then in the store on that app, there's like 80 paid-in apps, which are like £2 or £3. So it's a great way to sell nowadays, because there's no PR and stuff like that. It's just you put the stuff out there, and if people like it, then they buy the in-apps, and it works perfectly. So it's nice to give away stuff and also turn people onto the other recordings.
Yeah, exactly. That is the app that I got, and I discovered you from there. So I've been sort of, up and running now. So I'll be listening to them constantly. And can I go from that to go and buy the Law of Attraction one? Is that in that library?
That is in the library, yeah.
And what about the Higher Consciousness one? Is that there too?
We've just updated it. Yeah, that's in it as well.
Oh, excellent. Oh, that's and I'll be getting your book as well, The Law. So brilliant. Can I just ask before you go, if like, say you just think to yourself, right, I do want some money. Do you have to think about what job you need to get there? Or do you just think about what you need and want?
I always focus on what I need and want,
right,
more than the practicalities of it.
Right.
I mean, I think you've got to have a clear idea of what you want from life. It sounds like you want your own house, you want to have a good income, but you want to be doing something that you love doing as well.
Yeah.
You're not going into a job, just for the money. Focus on those things, and keep that at the core of all your meditations and your what you're projecting out there, because I think the simpler you keep it, the better. That said, it's something that is ongoing, so you can add to it as things start to move, and you build the energy of it. You can develop your affirmations, your goals. They can become bigger, and but then also, on the practical side, put yourself in situations where you are liable to attract what it is you need to. So you also need to do a little bit of practical stuff. It's no good if you're just in a flat and you're meditating and you're never going out and you're not meeting people. It's good to put yourself in positions where things can happen. So it's kind of a combination of the both.
I always wondered to myself, what I want to do for a living, because I don't want to work in the mainstream media anymore. And of course, doing this doesn't pay. It's like voluntary. So you're like, I never know what to do. But I suppose just as long as you get yourself in you called it something, actually, you called it getting in the something, the pool. Did you call it the pool or something like that?
When you're in that abundant environment?
Yes, you called it something.
It's kind of into the sort of flow state.
Yes, you called it a flow. You did call it a flow. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it. And it comes. With work, with the inner work, that will come, and you'll find that you will start to attract things into your life that take you towards that goal, and you'll meet the right people at the right time, and that's it. But you've got to be really clear about it and put a lot of energy and work into it. But enjoy the journey as well, because it is so rewarding and transformative.
I'm glad that it's like letting go and letting God, really, and getting in touch with that, rather than letting the monkey mind flap around and do loads of work and try and get you places when really it can't see the bigger picture, can it?
No, and if this is your passion, if doing this kind of thing, at the moment you say it's voluntary, but maybe there's ways. I've done teleseminars with groups in the States that have, where we've sold products on the back of it, and they've been phenomenal. Huge. So there's potential in everything you go into. It's just don't put a limitation on anything. There's always do what you love doing and what you've got a passion for and what's good for humanity. but think, well, I've got to make a living as well. And there's always ways. There's always, I never in a million years thought if somebody had said to me, you're going to be a hypnotherapist who makes recordings that's selling them millions, and you'll be totally self-published, you'll be doing it on your own. And I never could have imagined that. But because I got on the abundance path, I was projecting that out there, things happened. I got lucky breaks, and I found my own little niche. And really in the UK, I was, there was nobody really doing what I'm doing, making really dedicated hypnosis recordings. I started sort of the mid-90s, and at that time, the only recordings in the UK were sort of American recordings that were coming over, and they weren't always connecting with Brits. Brits wanted English speaking. That was so. I was in the right place at the right time. Throughout my career, I've always been there, and it is something that I meditated on for a long time. And it's powerful stuff.
Well, you're so I really I'm going to wrap up now myself, because my head is deaved. I was trying desperately to listen to you, and I was losing some of it, and it was like, I want to hear it. I know, so it's frustrated me, a bit. So I'm gonna I have to go off and, I don't know, have a beer or something now.
Well, we covered a lot of ground, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Yeah, we did. We did good.
You did good, as they say. The boy done good.
Yeah, it's just it's weird that it does get hacked when you mention some subjects. I mean, it just does, and that's what's happened. But our listeners, that I have faith in the listeners that they've got the message, and that's all I wanted to do. As soon as I heard you, as soon as I benefited so much, I thought I really want to share you with my listeners. I was excited to do that, so I've got that across, and they can get the app and get listening themselves. So I've done my duty, and thanks very much, Glenn, for helping us all in that way. I mean, high five. And
thank you. Well, you're welcome, Chris, and I'll ping over those recordings I was talking about to you.
Oh, thank you, and a link to your book as well. What is the new book going to be called?
The kind of working title at the moment is Renew Yourself.
Right.
And a lot of it is a couple of I spent some time in South America hanging around a shrine retreat, and not clarity, you just very shameless, and therapy, and I'm deal with this book because it's my, all the partnerships and McKenna, really
Right. I hope my listeners. Yeah, I've lost you again with the sound. Wow. Okay, I've lost you completely now. It's just gone Dalek. So I'm going to wrap up, but thanks ever so much for Glenn. That's Harrold, everyone, and that's Glenn with 2 N's and 2 R's. And I'm sorry the show has been all over the place tonight, but it's just been hacked to death, which shows you how good Glenn is. Get the app, get listening, and you will feel better, just as I have felt better. And thanks, everybody. I'm ending 10 minutes early. I hope Hawk isn't going to be too upset with me, but I just have to go and boil my head because the sound was so bad. It was so bad. Oh gosh. So it's 10 to the hour. If everybody can forgive me, I am going to close the show. You can reach me on Facebook, Christine Joanna Hart. Christiane Hart, that's Christy, capital A, capital N at the end, Christiane Hart. I'll soon be getting a website, but I haven't got a website yet. So you have to reach me on Facebook if you want to donate to the show. Keeping going. My PayPal account is warnernews at Sky, WARNERNEWS at sky.com. And I want to do a show coming up on the organization called MEND, that's MEND, who are fighting back against the oil companies. So if anybody has any contacts within those groups, please do contact me again on Facebook or give me an email, and I want to do something with them, either a file copy on it with one of the magazines, or try and get it in a newspaper, or just doing a show about it, one or the other. I'm going to round up the show because I don't think there's going to be any music playing me out because there wasn't any on the hour. I hope you've heard the show, and thanks very much for listening. God bless. And thank you very much, Glenn. If you're still... God bless, and thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been a great honor.